Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ann Steiber. I've been designated the hearing officer by Commissioner Michelle Siegel. Also present are Commissioners Boletto and McKinney. And we are here in the matter of Grand Cafe, Cruz A. Vasquez, permittee, 118 Grand Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut, permit number LCA 5444. And we are here for a remonstrance on the renewal application for a Connecticut cafe liquor permit for Grand Cafe. Before I ask people to start identifying themselves for the record, I just want to explain briefly how we'll proceed. The DCP will present first, then we will hear from the agent for the remonstrance and any testimony or witnesses. And then lastly, we will hear from the permittee and any witnesses and testimony. Attorney Medeo, can you please identify yourself for the record?
Sure. Scott Matteo, attorney, Department of Consumer Protection.
Since it looks like there's many people attending this hearing, at this hearing, I will, rather than going around and identifying everyone, we'll swear in those people who are going to be testifying. And then as people take turns with their testimony, if they could make sure they clearly identify themselves before they proceed. So all those who will be testifying today, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give concerning the case now in question? Let me start over. I see some people just came in. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Mr. Vasquez did not raise his hand. Does that mean he is not?
He was not on the witness list for the permittees. Attorney Crow, could you clarify that?
He's not on the witness list. Suppose he can testify if asked to, but we don't plan on calling him.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, Attorney Medeo, I'll turn it over to you.
And just as a sort of matter of housekeeping, would the commission like me to enter today's notice into the record? I can pull it up on my screen and share it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to have this marked and admitted into the record as Commission's Exhibit A.
Okay, we'll mark the notice of today's proceeding as exhibit number A.
Okay. And I'd like to call Special Liquor Control Agent William Boucher. I'm going to. Okay. Special Agent Boucher, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions now. Could you state your name, title, and business address?
Yes, my name is William J. Boucher. I am a special agent with the Connecticut Liquor Control Commission.
Thank you. I've just promoted you to panelist so you can appear on camera. So if you could turn your camera on. Thank you, sir. And I'll just ask again. Could you just state your name, title, and business address for the record?
Yes, William Boucher, special agent with the Liquor Division of the Department of Consumer Protection, 450 Columbus Boulevard, Hartford, Connecticut.
Thank you. And how long have you been with Liquor Control?
Approximately 35 years.
Is part of your job to review remonstrances on applications or?
Yes, it is.
Great. And are you familiar with the requirements of the laws concerning remonstrances?
Yes, I am.
All right. Now, are you familiar with the requirements of laws for holding a cafe permit?
Yes, I am.
All right. Did you review the remonstrance against Grand Cafe?
Yes, it was assigned to me to review and file a report on it.
Did you verify that this was a valid remonstrance signed by 10 persons over the age of 18 in the city of New Haven?
Yes, I did.
Was this received in a timely fashion?
Yes, it was. Per the statute, it has to be received at least 21 days prior to the renewal date. The renewal date was November 3rd of 21, and it was received by us on October 5th of 21.
Thank you. Was this remonstrance on a new application, a renewal application, or removal?
It was on a renewal application.
Okay. Do you happen to know when this permit was first issued?
Could I refer to my report?
Of course.
Yes, I believe the original permit was issued in 2000.
Okay. And were there any enforcement issues, or excuse me, are there any enforcement issues while the renewal is pending?
There's currently 3 enforcement issues outstanding. 2 are concerning police referrals we received on the premises, and 1 was a special investigation that was conducted as a joint investigation by the Liquor Division and the New Haven Police Department.
Okay. And are those issues still pending?
Yes, those issues are still under investigation.
Okay. Can you briefly explain the substance of the concerns that were raised by the remonstrance?
Yes, the substance had to do with disturbances in the area concerning fights, brawls, assaults, drug dealing, drug use on the premises, basically the conduct, how the premises was being operated. It also referred to a number of police reports, calls for service at the premises for the police department.
Okay. And did you prepare a report detailing your review of the remonstrance?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see this document?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Do you recognize it?
That appears to me in my report. It's my signature on the agent signature line, then signed by my supervisor, Robert Willard, who reviewed it, and then signed by the director, Caitlin Anderson.
Okay. I'd like to have this exhibit marked and entered into the record as Commission Exhibit B.
Okay, we'll have the report entered as Exhibit B.
And I just want to share one more document with you. Actually, just probably easier if I stop the share. Okay.
Lost it. Let's see. How do I get that back?
Let's see.
There it is.
Okay. And do you recognize, let me just move this out of the way. Do you recognize this document?
That looks like the cover page for the remonstrance.
Okay. And as I show you the rest of this document, can you just briefly describe what this is?
Yes, those were the attached pages with the signatures, the names, the signatures, the addresses, and the ages of the individuals who had signed the remonstrance.
Okay. So I'd like to have this exhibit marked and entered into the record as Commission Exhibit C.
Okay, we'll mark that as Exhibit C.
If I may be heard at this time, I'm reviewing the documents I was sent. I did receive the signature pages. I did not receive the cover page of the remonstrance.
Okay, first, can you identify yourself for the record?
My apologies. My name is Attorney Dave Crow. I represent the respondent.
Attorney Crow, just to clarify, I believe the agent for the remonstrance sent you the petition pages. She had indicated it was exhibit she might want to have it admitted into the record. I had sent Mr. Rivera, who had given his email as the email address for the permittee. I had sent him about 2 weeks ago all the exhibits that I was intending to admit into the record. So I don't know if he forwarded those along to you, but I can send it to you now.
That's okay. I just wanted to note for the record, I didn't have the cover page. I assume you have it.
Okay, so I would then move again for this document to be marked and admitted to the record as Exhibit C, Commission's Exhibit C.
Okay, we'll have that mark as Exhibit C.
Okay. Then I don't have any further questions at this point for Special Agent Boucher.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions for Agent Boucher?
Not at this time, no.
And Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, at this point, can the agent for the remonstrance identify themselves?
Yes, Karen DuBois Walton.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any questions for the agent?
Yes, thank you. Special Agent Boucher, the address of 118 Grand Street for the Grand Cafe, do you know that to ever be known as 124 East Pearl Street?
I do not know it to be known as that, no.
Okay. Does the premises face East Pearl Street or Grand Avenue?
I cannot tell you that, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
No questions for the agent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Agent Boucher. Okay, Attorney Medea, do you have anything further at this time?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, then at this point, we will turn it over to Ms. DuBois Walton, the agent for the remonstrance.
Thank you and good afternoon. I certainly appreciate this time and the care that's being taken to look into this matter. I would like to call as our first witness, Lieutenant Michael Fumiotti.
Is he present?
Yes, let me pull him up. Okay. And I'm going to promote him to panelist so he can be on video. Okay, he should be there now.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Fumiotti.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you for being here. Lieutenant Fumiotti, can you identify who you are and your role?
Sure. My name is Mike Fumiotti. I'm a lieutenant with the New Haven Police Department. I'm currently assigned to Fairhaven as the Fairhaven District Manager.
Thank you. Mr. Fumiotti, is the Grand Cafe located in Fairhaven?
It is.
Okay. Are you familiar with this, the premises?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
In some documents, the property is referred to as 118 Grand Avenue. Is there another address that the police department knows this property by?
Yes, ma'am, 124 East Pearl Street.
124 East Pearl Street. Thank you. So police reports that reference 124 East Pearl Street and name the Grand Cafe are referring to the establishment that we're talking about today?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. How long have you served in Fairhaven?
I've been an officer in New Haven since 2012. I've been in Fairhaven my entire career with some stints in other places, but I've been an officer my entire time here. When I was promoted to a sergeant, I was a supervisor here, and then I was promoted to district manager here as a sergeant. And then when I'm a lieutenant, I still stayed out here in Fairhaven. So I've been in Fairhaven my whole career, ma'am.
Thank you. Are you familiar with something called a community management team?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, can you tell us what a community management team is and how it relates to the New Haven Police Department and community policing?
Sure. So years ago, I think probably over 20 years ago now, as part of a community policing initiative, the community management teams were created around the city of New Haven, one for each district. There's 10 different districts. The goal there was to bring community, police, and the city together, whether it be livable cities or other agencies, together to have a monthly meeting to discuss primarily crime trends in the district, but then also there's some positive outcomes and how can community get together to make the district a better place. I believe there's a certain amount of money that's given by the city every year that can be used in the district by people that know the district and live in the district.
Okay. Do business owners participate in a community management team or only residents?
Anyone is welcome, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. At any of the monthly community management teams in your time serving in Fairhaven as the district manager or any other time you participated in management team, have the residents of the community raised any concerns about the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, has this been a topic of conversation at community management team meetings?
Yes, ma'am, it has.
Okay. Are you familiar with any of the owners or operators of the Grand Cafe?
I'm not familiar with Mr. Cruz Vasquez, but I am familiar with some of the other individuals that are operate the establishment.
Okay. Are they regular members of the community management team?
Not to my knowledge, ma'am, no.
Okay. So on a regular basis, you don't recall seeing them at the community management team meetings where community issues get discussed and raised and addressed?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. You are familiar with some of the management of the Grand Cafe. Tell us how often they engage you around any of the nuisance or criminal activity on their property. How often do they reach out to you, call you, engage you on these matters?
I would say rarely, ma'am.
If I could have a clarification of that question, is the agent asking Officer Fumiotti about him personally or the department?
I'm asking about the district manager.
So Lieutenant Fumiotti directly.
How often do the managers or owners of the Grand Cafe reach out to Lieutenant Fumiotti directly?
Thank you.
I don't believe ever, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you. Tell us about your engagement with residents who live in Fairhaven. Would it be typical for residents to reach out to the district manager and engage the district manager?
Yes, ma'am, very typical.
Okay. In engagement with residents, does the topic of the Grand Cafe ever come up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As somebody familiar with the neighborhood East Pearl Street, where this establishment sits, Grand Avenue, can you describe to us, Lieutenant Fumiotti, East Pearl Street? What will we find on East Pearl Street? How would you describe it?
Sure, ma'am. If you started, East Pearl Street is a one-way street that goes one way from Front Street all the way. It's Chapel Street turns into Front Street. It's primarily, it's all residential. As you go up, there's a church on Exchange Street. However, once you come to Exchange Street, it becomes one way now running into each other. When it does that, coming off of Grand Avenue, there's only one, there's a vacant lot that's owned by the city, that's a parking lot. And then there's also a couple of businesses right where the Grand Cafe is.
Okay.
Otherwise, the East Pearl Street is residential.
Okay, thank you. In the surrounding streets, are there any schools located in the radius of the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am. Fairhaven Middle School is located at 164 Grand Avenue.
Are you aware to whether that school is within 1,500 feet of the Grand Cafe?
It's absolutely within 1,500 feet of the Grand Cafe.
Okay. Are you aware of any daycare or early childhood providers in the vicinity of the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am. There's one directly behind the Grand Cafe on Grand Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Are you aware of any healthcare centers, healthcare providers in the vicinity of the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am. At 50 Grand Avenue, there is a Fairhaven health clinic. I also believe there's a dentist's office at the corner of Clinton and Grand.
Okay. Are there any apartment complexes in the area specifically designated for elderly or senior residents?
Yes, ma'am. At 50 Grand Avenue, there is that residence is primarily dedicated to the elderly, And there's also the senior center is located on Atwater. All of these are in very close proximity to one another.
Okay. You mentioned that neighbors have complained to you, residents have complained to you about the Grand Cafe. Have any neighbors complained about the fact that there are nuisance and criminal activities happening there with a concern that it's close to a school, to a daycare, to a healthcare center, to senior apartments?
Yes, ma'am. All of those concerns are part of the complaints.
Okay, thank you. I have entered a number of things that I'd like to, I've submitted a number of things I'd like to use as exhibits. And as a established now lieutenant in the New Haven Police Department, I believe you can comment on them. So I have police reports. I have a series of them that I'm going to ask to walk through. The first one, if it could be pulled up, is 16-041179.
Okay, give me one moment. Okay, can everyone see that?
Thank you. Lieutenant, will you note that this is a police report dated August 13th, 2016?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, it notes a location of 124 East Pearl Street. What do you know that location to be?
That would be the Grand Cafe, ma'am.
Okay. If we could scroll to what is page 3 of this report. You will note that this report.
If I may at this point, is this being offered into evidence? If it is, could it be offered before we read off it?
Yes, I'd like to enter this as my exhibit.
Okay, we're going to mark that as respondent exhibit 1.
Thank you. This report seems to
If
indicate.
if I may.
I'm sorry, not respondent, excuse me, remonstrant.
If I may at this time, was this report generated? I just want to clarify, was this report generated by the lieutenant?
No, it was not.
This report seems to refer to a narcotics enforcement unit action that involves something that's used as a CW, a cooperating witness. Can you explain to us what a cooperating witness is, Lieutenant, in your experience as a member of the New Haven Police Department? What is a cooperating witness?
Again, if I may, I'm sorry, could the hearing agent just clarify if this has been admitted as a full exhibit, or should I make objections, or how does this do you want to handle this?
Well, it's been marked as remonstrant exhibit 1.
So has it been accepted by the committee as a
Yeah.
full exhibit, as evidence? Okay,
Yes.
well then okay, thank you.
I'll repeat my question, Lieutenant Fumiotti. Can you explain to me what a cooperating witness is?
So for the purpose of the New Haven Police Department, we use cooperating witnesses when we are oftentimes purchasing illicit narcotics from individuals. So this would be a person who is familiar with the area, and then they are used to go purchase narcotics, and then with the supervision of undercover officers.
Okay, as you see on page 3, there's a location indicated of this enforcement action. Can you tell me what the location was? Can you read what's on that screen?
So I see summary of investigation. This investigation was conducted by members of the New Haven Police Department Narcotics Enforcement Unit, that's referred to as NEU, to address illegal drug activity in the Fairhaven section, District 8 of New Haven. This case documents a controlled purchase of cocaine from the area of 124 East Pearl Street, the Grand Cafe in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. And
Just for the record,
I'd
like to note for the record that that was read by the lieutenant from the report. It's not his testimony. He read it from the report.
Can you tell me, there's then crimes and statutes, then the next line section says location. Can you tell me what the report says the location was?
The location says the area of 124 East Pearl Street, the Grand Cafe in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. This report will go on. If you can scroll further down to page 4. Where we have a reporting officer narrative. Can you, Lieutenant, can you tell us what the reporting officer says occurs at approximately 13:28 hours?
If I may, at this time, the report's been exhibited or entered as an exhibit. We already know Officer Fumiotti was not involved with it. The report speaks for itself. I don't think Officer Fumiotti needs to read it into the record.
Okay, well, I would like the record to note that the cooperating witness states that a person looking to purchase illegal drugs from Grand Cafe must first purchase any $2 drink from the bartender.
Again, I'm going to raise the same point that the agent for the remonstrant doesn't have to read the report into the record. It's already been admitted.
No, she doesn't have to read it into the record, but if she would like to summarize for our edification, that would be helpful.
As long as I
Okay,
receive the
Lieutenant
same latitude, I'll be happy to agree to that.
Lieutenant Fumiotti, in reviewing this report, the cooperating witness appears to be stating that there's a process that happens when one wishes to purchase illegal drugs from Grand Cafe, where they indicate they must first purchase a $2 drink from the bartender. And after purchasing the drink, the buyer must inform the bartender of his or her interest in purchasing illegal drugs. Do you concur that that's included in this officer's report?
Yes, ma'am, that's what it says.
Okay, thank you. And this report continues to go on to say that the cooperating witness purchased illegal narcotics within the establishment and then exited and brought those to the narcotics officers. Do you note that in this report?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Do you note at the end of page 4 that the report indicates that the cooperating witness knows a person by the alias of Indio who normally sells illicit drugs at this location? Is that what the officer writes in this report?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay.
Again, for the record, we have the same pattern going on. We don't need to read it into the record.
It's okay, I'm ready to move on. I have plenty of police reports. I'd like to turn to I'm done with this exhibit. And I would like to turn to my next exhibit, which is Police Report 16-041399. I'd like to enter that as my next exhibit.
Realized I was muted, sorry. Bear with me one more moment.
Okay.
Let's see.
This be entered as my exhibit number 2.
Okay, we'll mark this as remonstrant exhibit 2.
I will cut to the chase on this and ask that you go to page 4, please. This, again, is another controlled buy that happens out of this establishment. If you could scroll down a little bit further. I'd like to go to the paragraph that begins, the CW described somebody by the alias of Kano, you can stop there, as a Hispanic male of light complexion, approximately 5 feet 6 inches with a thin build, approximately 30 years of age. At the time of the illicit transaction, Kano was clad in a white shirt and jean shorts. Lieutenant, the final sentence there indicates what about that the CW says about Kano. Can you read that? Do you see that?
The CW stated that Cano is a bartender at the Grand Cafe and also stated that Cano's father owns the Grand Cafe.
Okay,
Same point for the record, please.
thank you. I'm just entering that in. Thank you. We have a police report. I'm finished with this exhibit. Thank you. I would like you to pull up case number 16-042437. I'd ask that that be entered as my exhibit 3.
Give me a moment to share the screen.
Again, Lieutenant Fumiotti appears to be another controlled buy that happens out of the same establishment. Again, 124 East Pearl Street. If you could scroll to page 4. If you look at the approximately 12:43, the CW is familiar with the operation and advised any of you members that to purchase narcotics from the establishment, you first have to purchase a drink for $2. Lieutenant Fumiotti, did that come up in any previous reports that there's a process of paying for a $2 drink to buy narcotics out of this location?
Yes, ma'am.
That was in a previous report. Okay. Again, I'll note that narcotics were purchased and provided to the officers in that report as well.
Has this been entered into the record?
No, it is not. We can mark that as exhibit 3.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to enter for exhibit 4, the case number that's labeled 16-042896.
Bear with me, my computer's not cooperating at the moment. Okay.
Lieutenant Fumiotti, this report dated August 21st, 2016. Again, seems to indicate another narcotics undercover cooperating witness action that occurred at this location. Can you scroll to the bottom of page 4 for me? Okay, and that final paragraph, there again seems to be another reference to this $2 purchase of orange juice from the bartender to signal the purchase of narcotics or drugs. Would you confirm that that seems to be again in this report as well, another incident?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Again, has this been entered into the record?
I believe that was, correct me if I'm wrong, exhibit 4.
Okay.
That's exhibit 4. Thank you. Okay. Could we turn to exhibit 17-033120? I'd like to enter that as my exhibit 5.
Could you repeat that number again, please? I'm sorry.
17-033120. Could I have this entered in as my exhibit?
Okay, we'll mark this as Exhibit 5.
Okay. Does that need to be accepted or can I go?
Yes.
Okay. Lieutenant Fumiotti, in addition to what I've just presented around narcotics, this one seems to be related to an aggravated assault. Do you see that that's what this report indicates?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
An aggravated assault. Okay. Can we turn to page 3? Okay. On this, can we agree that this indicates there was a large fight in the parking lot of Grand Cafe, and that if you go down to the next paragraphs, you see that this was connected to somebody who states that they went to the Grand Cafe, and that this incident also connects to the Grand Cafe.
Yes, ma'am. It says people he didn't know came outside the bar and started beating him up.
Okay. All right, and this led to an aggravated assault charge. Thank you. Okay, if we could go to case 17, I'm finished with that exhibit. 17-034061. I'd like that marked as my exhibit 6.
Okay, we'll have this marked as Exhibit 6.
Thank you. Lieutenant Fumiotti, is this also seem to be an aggravated assault incident for the arresting officer, the investigating officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, that's what it's coded as.
thank you. Could we turn to page 3?
Okay, we're there.
Okay, the first line there, on a late report of stabbing. Could you tell us what a late report of stabbing, what does late report indicate?
Sure, ma'am. Generally, a late report is when someone does not make the complaint when the incident happens. And so, for example, a late report could be, generally it's more than a couple of hours after the incident occurred. So then officers, when they're dispatched, would know that it wasn't a stabbing occurring at 1450 Chapel Street in this case. They would know that it occurred somewhere else. So their response would be a normal response rather than as if there was a stabbing in progress.
Okay. Is it reasonable to draw a conclusion that the call did not come in from the location at the time it happened then?
At this point,
for this particular-
if I may, I don't know that any conclusion can be drawn by this witness based on this this report, which speaks for itself. If it wants to be entered, it speaks for itself. Asking this witness to draw a conclusion from it is, which is not indicated in the report, is problematic.
Okay, Lieutenant Fumiotti, if this had been called in earlier, would the reports be connected in any way?
That's just the same question in a different form, same objection.
I'm asking for police procedure now.
If you're asking in general, I have no objection. If you're asking particular to this incident, I have an objection.
Asking in general, police procedure. Is there any connection between reports if this had been called in on the site? If a case was called in on the site and then there was a subsequent late report of something related, are the reports connected in any way? Or do they show up as separate reports?
Our reporting procedure would be that the dispatcher would then cross-reference the case numbers. And so if you called in a day later, they would then check the calls to see if there were other calls in that area of question at the time that was referenced. Okay.
On this report that we have in front of us, if you look at the paragraph that starts on Thursday, June 29th, what's the location that the victim was headed to, according to the police report?
It says that she was heading to the Grand Cafe bar to celebrate her birthday.
Okay. In the next paragraph at around 11:30, it indicates that she was intoxicated outside of the bar, and this seems to have led to a fight. The rest of the report speaks to that fight. I'd like to go to page 4 of this report.
Okay, we're there.
Okay, the investigating officer indicates that they met with a bartender, Bruce Colasuano, from Grand Cafe. It indicates that Bruce stated that he knew that the altercation took place outside in the parking lot near the bushes. He was made aware that 2 females were fighting. He then locked the door to prevent anyone from entering the bar. He said he did not witness the assault. Does this report indicate that the bartender called the police in any way? From what the police report states?
It does not indicate that.
Okay. Goes on also to indicate that the victim here, another patron of the Grand Cafe indicates that the victim who was stabbed in this situation has sued the Grand Cafe in the past. That's noted in the police report based upon a previous assault there. All right, I am complete with this police report.
Okay.
Case number 17-050697. I'd like to have that entered as my exhibit 7.
Let me just get it up here.
Okay, we'll mark this as exhibit 7.
Thank you. This is an incident that is indicated as a simple assault on September 10th, 2017. Lieutenant Fumiotti, if we could go to page 3. This report indicates that there were some women involved in an altercation. There was screaming in the parking lot, and the victim, or I'm sorry, somebody, it's blocked out, reported that somebody had exited the Grand Cafe. Is that is that referring to the same Grand Cafe we've been talking about at 124 East Pearl, according to this report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we had another fight in the area related to having exited the Grand Cafe. Again, connected to the Grand Cafe. Thank you. I'm going to turn to my next police report. If you could bring up, I'm sorry, 17-050-703. I'd like that entered as exhibit 8.
All right, just let me get it up.
Okay, we will mark this as exhibit 8.
Thank you, Lieutenant. In 2017, if I have a report here that indicates a Sergeant Fumiotti, would that be you, sir?
Yes, ma'am, that would be me.
Okay, so I believe you were actually at this particular call. Is it ever police practice for the what's called Living City Initiative? I believe they mean the Livable City Initiative, the liquor commissioner and the fire marshal to ever do a joint visit somewhere?
Yes, ma'am. From time to time, we'll do compliance checks on different businesses and establishments around the city.
Okay, if you go to page 3 of this report, would you say that that's what generated this action here, reading that first paragraph there? Does that seem to be some sort of enforcement action that was happening that you were a part of?
Yes, ma'am. It looks like Lieutenant Zanelli and Lieutenant O'Neill organized a joint operation between the organizations that you mentioned before, as well as the Liquor Commission and the Fire Marshal, to conduct some spot checks on different establishments around the city.
Okay. This refers to a canine officer and a canine axe. Can you tell us what canine axe, what the Officer Feliciano and canine axe would have been doing at a scene like this?
So Canine Officer Feliciano and his canine axe are both trained in person searches as well as narcotics detection.
Okay, so that there obviously was some suspicion of narcotics that this was here. Now, in this report, does it indicate that, again, I don't want to read to people here, but is it fair to stipulate that an arrest was made here for narcotics that were found on the premises associated with a Christopher Alexander Febres? Is that what the report indicates in that second paragraph?
Yes, ma'am, from
And
Officer DuPont, correct.
Okay, and if we can scroll down a little bit further, there's a paragraph that begins canine axe. Also indicated officers that there was contraband in the basement on the ledge. So would this indicate that found on this premises in the basement, the canine also found additional narcotics? Or I'm sorry, additional drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I am complete with that report. Could we go to the report for case number 17-055070? I'd like that entered as my exhibit 9, please.
Yep, we'll just get it up.
Okay, we will mark this as exhibit 9.
Okay, this again indicates another drug narcotic violation. If you go to page 3, this appears to be a narcotics enforcement unit effort. If we go to page 4, you had a chance to look at this, Lieutenant Fumiotti. It appears that there was a car pulls up and is left running. The driver is not there when the officers approach the car. And the driver, as of the last paragraph on page 4, does that indicate that the driver, Mr. Ware, exited the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, this report indicates an arrest of this gentleman with narcotics. He had his car running and was found coming out of the Grand Cafe, tying him to that location as well. Thank you. Other narcotics. Okay, I'd like to turn to report 17-064371. I'd ask that that be entered as my exhibit 10.
Let me just pull it up.
Lieutenant Fumiotti, does this indicate this was a robbery with a firearm and a weapon law violation?
Yes, ma'am, that's what it was coded as.
Thank you. On page 4, if we could scroll to that.
Just for the record, this is marked as exhibit 10.
Thank you. This, we have a victim who says that she was, if you look at the paragraph that begins inside the hospital, spoke to the victim. She says she was at the Grand Cafe, is that correct?
I'm just looking for the part where it says that. She
Right,
said
that
she exited
first-
the bar. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. This poor victim exited. She was assaulted and hit over the head with a firearm. Again, leaving this location, her car was stolen. Again, very troubling behavior in our community. All right, I'm going to move us forward to report. Hold on. Report number 21-008314.
Okay, give me one moment.
I'd ask that this get entered as my exhibit 11.
Okay, we will mark this as exhibit 11.
Okay, this is March 6, 2021 incident. Drug and narcotic violation. Can we scroll to page 3?
Okay.
Now, we talked before about CW. This references a CI, a confidential informant. Can you tell us what a confidential informant is in your understanding?
So one is the difference between the CW and the CI is one is able to testify in court. So the informant would be the one that would be, informant gives the information, a witness would be able to testify in court.
Okay, thank you. So here, this report indicates that the confidential informant called the police because of concerns that somebody inside of the Grand Cafe was in possession of a firearm. Do you see in the second paragraph that the confidential informant indicated that the person they're concerned about was in the Grand Cafe?
Sorry, could you repeat that question? Just have an active substation here.
Yes. The second paragraph indicates that the CI said that the male was inside of the Grand Cafe. Is that accurate in what the officer reported?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. And note that this led to that person was detained by the police who arrived on scene and again led to a narcotics arrest. Finally, I'd like to turn to report number 21-032684. And I'd ask that it be entered as exhibit 12.
Yeah, let me just get it up.
Okay, we'll mark this as exhibit 12.
Thank you. Lieutenant Fumiotti, this report is from September 7th, 2021. Lieutenant Fumiotti, do you know what occurred? I'm sorry. Can we scroll to page 4?
Okay.
In the first line there, where it says they were dispatched to 142 East Pearl Street, do you believe that to be the correct address, or do you believe that's a transposition? Can you scroll back to page 1? I'm sorry.
Sure.
What address is listed on page 1?
That's 124 East Pearl Street, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Can we go back to page 4 now?
Okay.
Okay, do you see in the second paragraph where they say laying on the ground in the parking lot in front of the Golden Walk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, seeing that and seeing the address on the first page, do you believe that the address that was meant in the first session is 124 East Pearl, this address we've been talking about this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am. There is no 142 East Pearl Street.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to note that in this unfortunate incident, a young man was shot on this premises as well. Lieutenant, I'm complete with that police report.
Okay.
I submitted a New Haven Independent article.
Yeah, give me one moment.
If you could bring that up, I'd ask that be entered as my exhibit 13.
I'm going to object to that being entered and that there's nobody to testify as to what the veracity of that is.
Well, first, you're still questioning Lieutenant Fumiotti?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm going to ask him about that article.
Just so everyone's aware, this is a print to PDF of the article that Mr. Bob Walton sent to the parties before the hearing. I printed it to PDF.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, and this is from what publication?
The New Haven. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that for me? Or?
Either. Yes.
The New Haven Independent.
Okay. Okay, we will mark this as exhibit 13.
Lieutenant Fumiotti, are you familiar with?
If I may, that's for the record, that's over my objection.
Okay, so noted.
Okay. Lieutenant Fumiotti, are you familiar with an arrest of a 19-year-old man inside of that was related to the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. Are you familiar with the fact that the Liquor Commission accompanied the police to the bar, to the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am, I coordinated those efforts similarly to the way Lieutenant O'Neill and Lieutenant Zanelli did in the past to do spot checks on different establishments in the city.
Thank you. And we heard Special Agent Boucher report earlier that there were some open matters. To your understanding, is this one of the open matters?
Yes, ma'am. This particular spot check resulted in a couple of different open matters on their end.
Okay. Are you aware of any open matter that has to do with underage patrons being served alcohol at the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am. That was the other one for this incident.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done with that exhibit. Are you familiar with three women who have been organizing around this? Sarah Miller, Kika Matos, and myself.
Yes, ma'am. I'm familiar with your efforts.
Okay. Do you know these three women as being long-term residents of Fairhaven?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know these women as mothers who've been raising their families in this community?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Okay. Do you find them to be people who engage constructively in the community?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Lieutenant Fumiotti, you have been extremely helpful in documenting what is a long history of concerns with the Grand Cafe, and I thank you for your testimony.
Attorney Crow, do you have questions for Lieutenant Fumiotti?
Thank you. Thank you. Lieutenant Fumiotti, first and foremost, thank you for being here. I just have a few questions for you, sir, before I walk you through each individual report. A cooperating witness you mentioned is somebody in several of these reports, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And isn't it true that mostly cooperating witnesses are people that have been accused of crimes in the past, of your experience?
Yes, sir. They can be involved in crimes. Yes.
Thank you. And you've also dealt with witnesses with regards to violent crimes in several times in your career, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it so that a lot of times those witnesses are reluctant to come forward when dealing with violent crimes?
In some cases, yes, sir.
And could that be due to fear of reprisal?
I don't know if I can say what they speak to, but it is rumored that that could be a thing, yes.
I apologize. This is going to take me a few minutes to get organized here. May we bring up remonstrance number 1, please?
Okay, one moment.
Just the first page.
Okay. Have it up, just got to share the screen.
Thank you. Okay, and I just, the date of that report, could you read that to us, Lieutenant?
Sure, that's August 13th, 2016.
And can we scroll to page 3, please?
Okay.
And there's a section noted police personnel. I believe you can just see it at the bottom of the screen. Are you listed in the police personnel that was involved in this incident?
No, I'm not, sir.
So you weren't involved in this incident in any way?
No, sir.
And if we can turn to page 5.
Okay.
This refers to somebody known as Indio making serves, making sales, but apparently there was no police action taken at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And nothing in this report that indicates that the subject Indio works for or is involved in any way with the Grand Cafe. Isn't that correct?
I don't see it on this page, sir, no.
Okay, if I could turn to remonstrance exhibit number 2, please.
Sure. Give me a moment.
Just for the sake of going forward, I'll be asking through each of the remonstrance exhibits, so
I appreciate that.
scroll them up or queue them up.
Okay.
Officer Fumiotti, could you please tell us what the date, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Fumiotti, could you please tell me what the date of this incident is?
This would be August 14th, 2016.
And if we could turn and scroll to page 3, please.
Okay.
Police personnel involved, you were not directly involved in this case either, were you?
Correct, sir.
If we could scroll to page 4, please.
All right.
This refers to somebody named Cano, is that correct? C-A-N-O?
Yes, it does, sir.
And it says on page 5, due to this, the case will be closed with no further action. No arrests were made in this case either, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And there's nothing that says Cano was involved in any way with the Grand Cafe, is that correct?
I'd have to look at this report if you wouldn't mind scrolling back up.
Okay, I'll start on page.
Yeah, you can scroll down more. That's fine.
Okay, page 3 or 4 would you like, Lieutenant?
Page 4, the one that we're on, would be fine. I just have to read through it. I'm not sure this particular report. So, sir, for this particular one on the last paragraph there, it says the CW stated that Cano is a bartender at the Grand Cafe.
Well, but no arrest
that
was
Cano-
made in this matter, is that correct?
No, sir.
And there
Not
was,
according to this. I don't have.
It says on page 5 that a portion of this incident was captured on audio and video surveillance, but no arrest was made.
That's correct, sir.
I'd like to go on to, what was that? 3 there? What was that? 2. 2, 3. May we go on to remonstrance 3?
Yeah, and if you'll just bear with me for a minute, I'll pull up all the exhibits, just so they're all there. And then I'll share the screen.
He's just getting everything queued up.
Okay, they're all up. Let me just share my screen now.
We're looking at number 3.
Right, that's okay.
Okay, Lieutenant, could you read the date of the incident report here?
Sure. This one is August 19th, 2016.
And again, this was something you weren't involved in personally, correct?
I just have to see the list of police personnel, but if I'm not on there, then I wasn't
That's
involved.
on page 3, I believe.
Correct, sir. I was not involved in this.
And again, in this incident, no arrest was made. Is that correct? If you scroll to page 5.
That's correct, sir.
In fact, on page 5, it says this case will be closed with no further action.
That's correct, sir.
Can we go to number 4, please?
Okay.
And again, can you read the date for us, Lieutenant?
The date here is August 21st, 2016, sir.
And if we can scroll to page 3. You were not involved in this one personally?
That's correct, sir.
And if we can scroll to page 6. Says no further police action was taken at this time. No arrests were made, correct?
For this one, sir, I'm not sure about that. It looks like they identified a suspect. So I according to this particular report, it looks like no further police action was taken at this time.
And if we could go to remonstrance number 5, please.
Oh, we're there.
This incident took place on June 25th, 2017, correct?
Yes, sir, it did.
And this involves a fight outside in the parking lot of the Grand Cafe. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And then we move to remonstrance number 6, please.
Okay.
And Lieutenant, could you read the date of that incident?
This is June 30th, 2017.
And you indicated this was the late report of an assault. Is that correct? What does late report mean again?
So generally speaking, sir, when someone makes a late report, they are making the report generally a couple of hours after the initial incident occurred. It's just a coding thing for us to do so that officers don't respond as if it was a crime in progress. So it would be, the officers would be dispatched to a late report of a stabbing at such location so they know that the victim is there, but there's no active aggression going on.
And this indicates that if there was an incident that happened outside, it happened outside the Grand Cafe in the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. This one happened just outside the Grand Cafe. Yes.
And if you'll turn to just a moment, paragraph, I believe it's page 4.
Okay.
This indicates that a bartender from the Grand Cafe named Bruce Calasuano, I'm butchering that name, I apologize. Calasuano spoke with the police. Is that correct?
That's what it indicates, sir.
So and he said that the fight was outside and he locked the door so nobody could get in. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And he indicated that the fight happened outside of the view of the surveillance videos that they have.
Sorry, sir. Let me just read through this here.
Okay.
That's correct, sir. That's what it says.
So that would seem to indicate that the Grand Cafe has surveillance video of the parking lot in 2017. Is that correct? Or of outside of the building?
That's what that would indicate, sir. Yes.
But there was cooperation by the employee of the Grand Cafe with the police. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. When the officers arrived
I'd
to
like to move-
investigate, he spoke with them. Yes.
May we move to exhibit number 7, please?
All right.
Again, the date of this report is September 10th, 2017, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And this again was another incident that happened in the parking lot outside, correct?
I'd have to see the report, sir. I'm not sure.
Can we turn to page 3, please?
We are here.
Witness saw the entire incident occur, stated that so-and-so and so-and-so got into an argument, and one of them was leaving the bar. I apologize, this is redacted, so it doesn't read right. Stated one of them lost their temper, exited her vehicle, following the other one into the parking lot, threw her to the ground and began to strike her in the face, causing injury. So this occurred in the parking lot, correct?
Correct.
And unlike the others, this is one you were personally involved with. Is that correct?
Sorry, sir. Could you repeat that?
Unlike the other reports, this is one you were personally involved with. Is that correct?
I was on scene for this one, sir. Yes.
And I'd like to move to number 8, please.
Okay.
This incident refers, if you could turn to page 3, please.
Sure. Okay,
This was in September 9th of 2017, correct? Is that
Yes,
what
sir.
it says in it? And then it mentions that there was an individual, Christopher Alexander Febres, that was arrested that night, correct?
Yes, sir.
And no other enforcement action was taken except the arrest of Mr. Febres. Is that correct?
I'd have to see the bottom of the report, sir, but I don't believe so. That's correct, sir.
May we go to number 9? Remonstrance
Okay.
number 9.
all right.
If we could, this was in October 3rd, 2017. Is that correct, Officer Fumiotti? I'm sorry, Lieutenant Fumiotti?
This is from October 3rd, 2017. Yes, sir.
And I apologize, I'm butchering your last name. Could you pronounce it for me one more time?
It's okay, sir. It happens all the time. It's
Fumiotti.
Fumiotti.
Fumiotti, okay.
Fumiotti. Yep.
Fumiotti. I promise to get that right. I apologize.
That's okay, sir. Thank you.
Officer Fumiotti, this October of 17 incident, you were not directly involved in, correct? We can turn to page 3.
No, sir, I was not.
And this incident, if we can turn to page 4, the officers saw a car that was improperly parked in the parking lot, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that whole incident occurred in the parking lot, correct?
Yes, sir. The vehicle was in the parking lot.
We can move to number 10, please.
Okay,
The date of that incident was November 25th, 2017. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And I believe it shows at the bottom of page 1, the officers involved. Is that correct?
So this one that would be the officer who investigated it, and then it looks like a detective who was assigned the case, and then a supervisor who signed off on the report, sir.
Okay, and if you could scroll to page 3, please.
sure.
There's a list of assisting officers. Does your name appear in those assisting officers, Officer Fumiotti?
No, sir, it does not.
And if we scroll to page 4, please.
Okay. Okay,
Paragraph 2 says there were drops of blood in the front of the Grand Cafe along the sidewalk towards the entrance of Pizza Plus. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So this incident occurred outside, correct? Outside the Grand Cafe.
Correct, sir.
And then we go to number 12, please.
number 12 or number 11?
I think I was just at number 11. May we go to, I believe I got them out of order here, just a moment.
Sure.
May we go to number 11, please?
Yep, it's up.
And that was March of 2021, is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Again, just for clarity, your name does not appear in this report, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And the individual at this point was arrested outside, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you turn to page 4 of the report, it says the interior of the Grand Cafe was canvassed for a firearm, but none was located. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Move on to number 11, please. Or we just went through 11, excuse me, I'm sorry. Number 12, please.
Okay.
You can scroll to page 3, please.
Sure. Okay.
Officer Fumiotti, your name does not appear in this report either. Is that correct?
Could you just scroll to the narrative?
Sure.
That's correct, sir.
This is also used a cooperating witness. Is that correct?
I would just have to see that part of the
Can we scroll to
report.
page 4?
Attorney Crowe, do you know what section that is?
Page 4,
I don't-
fourth paragraph down. Starts approximately 1100 hours.
I think we're on a different report here. This one is a shooting.
Okay, my apologies. I'm on report number, I thought this was exhibit 12, 032684.
This is that document. Perhaps I'm just not seeing it. It's on page.
Generally, so this most likely would not involve a confidential informant. It looks like officers responded to a person that was shot in this at this location on September 7th. So generally, a informant or a confidential witness wouldn't be used for this. It would just be people calling about a person being shot.
Strange that number 12 was given that designation and it doesn't match up to what I have here. All right, well, we'll skip to it then. This incident is September 7th, 2021, correct?
For the shooting, yes, sir. September 7th.
And this states that they responded to, if you go to page 4, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states Officer Diaz reviewed footage from the incident from the Golden Walk restaurant. Is that correct?
Is that on this page here that I'd be able to see that? I don't see that.
Paragraph number 5 on page.
Oh, there you go. I see it now. That's correct, sir.
And if you go to paragraph 2, it indicated that upon arrival, we located a black male identified as, and then it's been redacted, laying on the ground in the parking lot in front of the Golden Walk, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I have nothing further for Lieutenant Fumiotti. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions for the lieutenant?
I do not.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto?
I do, Lieutenant. just so I understand, you're not speaking on just behalf of yourself, you're also speaking as a spokesman of the department when you're reading these reports?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure that was clear. 2 is, can you go back to, I believe it's a remonstrative 8, dated 9/09, or I'm sorry, exhibit 8 dated 9/09. Can we bring that up, please?
Yep, give me a moment. Exhibit 8.
I believe it's, yeah, remonstrative 8.
Okay.
I think the date is September 9th.
Oh, the date's September 9th. Okay. Give me one moment. Okay. Let me just.
Lieutenant, I believe on this one, you were sergeant at the time, but you did appear. Could you please scroll down? Keep going. Jeez. Okay. Double lock test. If you can go down just a little farther, please. Okay, let me just see. Stop there for a minute. So, Lieutenant, you were on this site at the time as a sergeant?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. At some point here, it read that if I did not mistakenly read this, that the dog had gone down to the basement and had located some narcotics on a windowsill. Could you see if that is correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, sir. Located 95 empty green small Ziploc bags and 1 clear plastic bag containing a green plant-like substance.
And that was in the basement of the building?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Are you familiar enough with the inside of the building to describe it to me and how you would get to the basement? And is there open access?
So as you walk into the establishment to the left-hand side, if I remember correctly, there's a stairwell going down to a basement.
Okay, so it's an open stairwell, not a door or anything?
I believe there's a door there, sir. I'm not sure, though.
Okay. So it's not where the restrooms or something are downstairs and open to the public, as far as you know?
That's correct, sir. The restrooms are straight to the back of the establishment. So if you walk in the front of the bar, there's a bar in like a C shape to your right and in front of you. And then if you were to walk over the bar or around the left side of the bar, the 2 bathrooms are to the back behind the pool table.
So this would most likely lead to a storage area or an employee area down the staircase, as far as you could assume, or you would know.
Yes, sir. It's not. I don't believe it's open to the public.
Okay.
It's certainly not set up to be open to the public.
Okay, and there was obviously a very large amount of narcotics found in this location.
I don't know about a large amount, but there was an amount found there.
Yeah, is that where the 95? I guess was that where the 95 stamps were found, or was that on?
That would be where the bags were found, sir. And so
Okay.
there was no narcotic
95.
evidence found inside the bags, but
This is
those would be
95 empty green bags.
Got it.
correct.
All right, thank you.
May I ask questions on those questions?
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I missed that.
This is Attorney David Crowe. May I ask questions on that question, on those questions?
Yes.
Officer or Lieutenant Fumiotti, to the best of your knowledge, no enforcement action was taken against the Grand Cafe as a result of that incident, correct?
Correct, sir.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant, for your testimony.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Ms. Dubois-Walton, do you want to call the next witness?
You're muted.
Sorry, I'd like to call Representative Alphonse Paolillo Jr., please.
I'm promoting him to a panelist, so he can participate, put on his camera.
Good afternoon, Representative Paolillo.
Good afternoon.
Hi, could you introduce yourself and let us know what your role is in the city or in the state?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alphonse Paolillo Jr. I am the state representative of the 97th district in New Haven and have represented the community in that role for 3 terms.
Thank you. I entered a document that is titled Joint Testimony of State Senate President Martin Looney, Deputy Majority Leader Al Paolillo, and Deputy Speaker Juan Candelaria. I'd like to enter that as Exhibit 14.
Let me just pull it up. Okay.
Representative Paolillo, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Okay. Are you a co-author of this document?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you tell us who the other 2 signatories are? Who is Senator Martin Looney?
Senator Martin Looney represents the 11th senatorial district. He is also the Senate president, and Juan Candelaria is a colleague of mine in the House, and he is a state representative representing the 95th district.
Okay. Have you yourself, or the 3 of you, have you written many letters to the Department of Consumer Protection, Liquor Control?
We have written correspondence regarding this, yes.
Okay. You wrote this letter. Is this something that you have, is this a practice that you do quite often? Do you have a lot of instances where you have to write a letter like this?
He's being promoted to a panelist right now. My apologies. He must not have been promoted before. He should be with us now.
Okay. Representative Paolillo, can you hear me?
Yes, I lost you for a second. Okay, there we are. Yeah,
There we go.
I wasn't fully in as a panelist, but no, this is not correspondence that we write every day, certainly.
It's not. Tell me why did you co-author this letter at this time?
There were concerns that have been brought to the delegation from the community, obviously, with some of the instances that were cited by Lieutenant Fumiotti in his testimony, and obviously the latest event, the occurrence of the shooting in September.
Okay. Have any constituents reached out to you with concerns about this, the Grand Cafe?
Yes, constituents have reached out to me, correct, regarding the Grand Cafe.
Okay. Are you aware of a number of police calls for service at the Grand Cafe?
As this process has unfolded over the last several months, as these reports have been made public, certainly I have had the chance to become familiar with some of the incidents and certainly have reviewed some of the calls for service and some of the statistics and some of the information that's provided by Lieutenant Fumiotti and the New Haven Police Department regarding the location today that's being discussed. That is correct.
Thank you. As constituents have reached out to you, have they expressed concerns for their own safety or security around this location?
Yes, they have expressed concerns regarding their safety and the activity that is taking place there. That is correct.
Have any of your constituents expressed concern about the fact that this is close to a school and a daycare, and they're concerned about their children coming and going, the things that their children may witness, observe, or potentially be exposed to, and even potentially be a victim of? Have you heard any concerns like that?
I have had concerns expressed to me and articulated by residents, by business owners. Obviously, some of the locations on the street have been documented already, but there is Junta Social Services Organization right down the street. There's other businesses. Obviously, the residents, both in single family, multifamily apartments that have been documented. Strong School, which is the possibility of being developed across the street from this location. So yes, around children, around residents, around families, around visitors to the area, and around the businesses that are conducting business every day. Certainly concerns have been expressed, concerns have been articulated around safety, around being able to live there and being able to conduct and operate businesses there.
Thank you. Have you heard from any constituents who are seniors or elderly about any concerns about being in this area, the kind of activity that happens at and around the Grand Cafe?
Certainly, during the vigils, during the Occupy activities happening in the parking lot during the month of September, those concerns had been expressed by residents there, certainly on those evenings for the month of September, where we did occupy and come together. Yes.
We've gone through and documented only a small sample of the numerous calls for police service at this location. I'm curious, has the owner or the manager or anyone affiliated with the Grand Cafe reached out to you all as state representative and state senators for any assistance in any way related to the numerous concerns that we've laid out as what happens in that area?
I have not been contacted, and speaking for the other two signatories on this testimony, my understanding is that no one else has been contacted either.
So despite the fact that you have great resource at your disposal, could wield influence, could get the attention of law enforcement or other resources in it, you've not been contacted in any way to provide any assistance to what's been going on for years at this location?
Not from the business owners, no.
Okay. 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 Thank you. I know that we have submitted your testimony into record. Is there anything I have not asked you that you wanted to be sure to share, Representative?
No, as we've articulated in the testimony, Senator Looney, Representative Candelaria, and myself, along with the rest of the delegation, are strongly opposed to the renewal here of this liquor license with the illegal activities that have been documented with the police reports, with the concerns that have been expressed by the community. You know, having represented this community for close to 20 years as both a member of the City Board of Aldermen for 15 years and now in the state legislature the last 5, residents have been very clear here. Over the month of September, we've heard from many businesses, from many families about the nuisance, about the illegal activity, and about the detriment and the adverse impact that the community faces every day from establishments like Grand Cafe. So it's certainly well documented, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to testify and to be in front of you today.
Thank you. Representative, is your understanding of the privilege that is provided by the state to establishments that operate under the state of Connecticut liquor control, do you believe that business owners have any responsibility for the behavior of the patrons that come to and from their organization, of the level of intoxication demonstrated by people leaving their establishment? Do you feel like under the Connecticut liquor control that the establishment has any responsibility for that?
I'm going to object to that question. It's asking for speculation. It's asking for stuff that he hasn't qualified as an expert to testify to.
I'm asking for his understanding as an elected state a representative of the state of Connecticut.
Which I'm unaware of him having any special qualifications to speak to the answer to that question.
Well, we'll allow him to answer the question in general.
In general, Karen, my answer would be having served over 20 years in elected office and having dealt with establishments that have had either their license up for renewal with public concerns and having public safety concerns around establishments in the past, there's certainly, yes, a responsibility both to the business community, the business that they're representing, and the residents in the community. You're looking for a balance between business and residential. And certainly there is a responsibility that not only looks at the establishment that you're operating, but the folks and the customers that you're doing business with, especially when it's happening or could be happening on your premise. or closer to other businesses. So certainly that type of behavior that's been articulated today does carry over to the neighborhood overall, certainly. So there is a responsibility in my mind, certainly.
Thank you. And Representative Paolo, are there other alcohol serving establishments in your district?
Yes, there are.
Okay,
Objection,
thank you.
relevance.
So-
What's the relevance of that?
So I appreciate your testimony and the fact that of all the places that you represent, that this one has risen to the level based upon the concerns that you have raised to come and testify for us today. I appreciate you, and I have no further questions.
I object to that last statement. Its argument should have been saved for argument. I note that the remonstrance did not save any time for closing argument.
All right, well, we will allow for closing arguments, but Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
Actually, if I may, before Attorney Crowe, I just want to clarify whether Exhibit 14, the testimony, was formally entered into the record.
We will so enter it as Exhibit 14.
And I also wanted to just to confirm that Representative Paolillo was present at the beginning of the hearing when all the witnesses were sworn in.
Yes, sir, I was present.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Attorney Crowe.
Thank you. If I may, Representative Paolillo, you mentioned that in September of 2021, many constituents expressed concern. Is that correct?
Are you referring to my testimony?
Yes.
Written testimony, yes.
And the information upon which this letter was based was provided to you by whom?
Some of the information has been made available by the police department, through various sources, including the media, representatives of the community, stakeholders.
Would one of them be the agent for the remonstrance?
This has certainly been a public safety concern by a constituent, so we've certainly discussed this topic and the importance to our community and the adverse impact that this illegal activity and nuisance activity has created in the Fairhaven community, certainly.
So that's a yes?
That would be a yes, yes, sir.
Now, the people who own the Grand Cafe and their employees would also be constituents of yours, is that correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you wield a lot of influence and can get access to a lot of resources, is that correct?
Sir, that wasn't my testimony.
Well, perhaps I misunderstood the question of the remonstrance agent. She said you have a lot of influence and other resources that you can provide, and that my client and that nobody from the Grand Cafe has reached out. Did I misunderstand that?
I believe your question said that that was my testimony, and that wasn't my testimony.
So you don't have any influence or other resources then?
Are you asking me now a question? My
Yes,
first question.
I'm asking you. I asked you, do you wield influence or have other resources available to this problem?
We certainly work with constituents every day to address community concerns and connect people to government services on a daily basis. Yes.
You didn't feel it was incumbent upon you as a community leader, after having have many constituents of yours expressing concerns, to maybe reach out to the Grand Cafe?
Sir, I was actually present for many of the nights of the vigils and the sit-ins, and certainly present there at the parking lot. And so certainly there on scene.
You didn't reach out though, did you?
I couldn't reach out any further than being right outside of the business for nights, and had the opportunity.
You didn't
You
go
want me to
knock on
answer
the
your-
door, you didn't make a phone call, nothing?
Do you want me to answer your first question, or do you want
The
me to?
second
answer
one,
your
you didn't
question?
make a phone call and you didn't knock on the door, correct?
Was certainly there outside, about 5 or 10 feet from the business, certainly.
So no, you didn't knock on the door, and no, you didn't make a phone call. Just say that.
Are you asking the question or answering the question, sir?
Never mind. Nothing further for Representative Paolillo.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions? I believe you're on mute.
Representative, this is in your district, correct?
It's right outside of my district.
It's right outside, so, and it's in Representative Candelori's district then?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Dubois Walton?
Yes,
Yep.
I'd like to call as my next witness, Mr. Frank Alvarado.
Okay, he should be promoted to a panelist, but he's on mute and his camera's off.
Great. Good afternoon, Mr. Alvarado.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure. Excuse me for one second.
And before we get started, would you be able to confirm that he was present at the beginning of the hearing when the witnesses were sworn in and that he was
Yes,
sworn
I
in?
was present. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarado, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us what your role is?
My name is Frank Alvarado. I'm the chairman of the Grand Avenue Special Services District, a special taxing district in New Haven, designated to work with the merchants on Grand Avenue. I'm also a former resident of Fairhaven, also former director of the Spanish American Merchants Association on Grand Avenue and former director of the Livable Cities Initiative. So I've been involved in Fairhaven for well over 35 years.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. In your role with the Grand Avenue Special Services District, would you have any reason to interact with the Grand Cafe and the owners of the Grand Cafe? Is that located within your district?
It is located within the district. I have not interacted directly with the owners. I have interacted with other businesses that have complained and caught me on my walks on Grand Avenue to complain about the activities that are going on there in the evenings.
Okay. Well, what specifically does the Grand Avenue Special Services District do with businesses along that area?
Well, we our main function on Grand Avenue is to clean the avenue, make sure that it is. We have a contract with a group that cleans Grand Avenue. We provide plants and trees during the summer and spring and early fall, and we're used as a sounding board for businesses that have issues that we can try to solve working with the city administration.
Okay, so you're a potential resource. Has the Grand Cafe reached out to you
No.
in your role at the Grand Avenue Special Services District?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. You mentioned having heard concerns from other businesses about the Grand Cafe. Can you tell us more about what are you hearing? What kinds of concerns?
Well, the majority of the complaints are about public safety. Businesses on Grand Avenue, and it's our goal. We don't want businesses shutting the doors at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We want Grand Avenue to be a vibrant area where people can walk up and down Grand Avenue and not be afraid. And most of the complaints that I get are from businesses saying that there's stuff going on Grand Avenue and near that area, near the area of East Pearl Street, that affects their business. You have restaurants across the street. You have two very busy restaurants across the street. You have barbershops across the street. And sometimes are forced to close a little bit early because they don't want they don't want their customers to be in danger.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. So The location that you're referencing is at the corner of Grand Avenue and East Pearl Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and businesses you've heard from on Grand Avenue are being impacted by what's happening at the location of the Grand Cafe?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of what you're hearing, to the point that some are not even wanting to stay open later into the evening, despite being a restaurant or a barber shop that might do business.
That's correct.
Okay.
Especially, we have one restaurant that just refuses to stay late because, she fears for her employees and for her customers.
Okay. Are there other establishments in this area that serve alcohol?
And that immediate block or?
Right.
Yeah, the restaurant across the street serves beer. I need to have a beer and wine permit.
Okay. Do you get the similar kinds of complaints about that in that restaurant?
No, I do not.
You don't. Okay. I'd like to note that I submitted written testimony from Mr. Alvarado. I'd like to enter that as my exhibit 15, please.
Okay, just give me a moment to pull it up. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do you recognize this, Mr. Alvarado?
Yes, I do.
Okay, this is testimony that you submitted with your
Yes, ma'am.
objection to the renewal of the liquor license?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how many businesses
If
are
I
represented?
may, I don't have a copy of that. I was
Okay.
given a copy of something from a Miss Gina Toppins, but I was not given a copy of this.
Let me confirm. I believe that you were, but yeah, Attorney Crowe, you were sent this document on Tuesday evening at 9:07 p.m. by me.
Very well.
Okay, we'll mark this as exhibit 15.
Thank you. Roughly how many businesses are represented by the Grand Avenue Special Services District?
I knew you were gonna ask, and I apologize, but it's probably in the 40s.
Okay.
Close to 50. Mhm. We
Okay.
start on Murphy Drive. If you're familiar with Grand Avenue, Murphy Drive, all the way down to Front Street.
Okay. And you, sir, as the chairman, are authorized to speak on behalf of the Grand Avenue Special Services District?
If
Yes,
I
ma'am.
may, at this moment, can that testimony be put back up? I don't see it. If we're going to use it, I think it's been admitted as 15.
Yep. Give me one moment. All right.
Okay. And so as chairman of the Grand Avenue Special Services District, you're authorized to speak on behalf of the organization?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you're speaking on behalf of 40 to 50 businesses in this area, representing your objection to the renewal?
I'm speaking on behalf of the organization. If I may, I'm speaking as a former resident and a person who loves Fairhaven and loves that section of the city.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony on behalf of all of that, and I have no further questions.
Okay, Attorney Crowe? You're on mute. Oh, thank you.
I have no questions for Mr. Alvarado. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a second, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any
Oh,
questions?
I'm sorry.
That's right. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bolletto?
None at this time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
This time
go ahead.
ready. I'd like to call Ms. Sarah Miller as my next witness.
Okay. Give me a moment so I can promote her and find her. All right, she was just promoted to panelist.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Miller.
Again, before we move forward with her testimony, could she confirm that she was present when the witnesses were sworn under oath?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, could you introduce yourself and tell us how you're connected to Fairhaven and to this area?
Sure. I'm a resident of Clinton Avenue, which is just a couple blocks from the Grand Cafe on the other side of Grand Avenue. I'm a mom. I have 2 children who are 7 and 10 years old. And I was just elected to the New Haven Board of Alders representing Ward 14, which is the ward that includes Grand Cafe.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sorry, did you say how long you've lived in the neighborhood?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Okay. Are you familiar with the community management team in Fairhaven?
Yes, I'm a frequent participant in the community management team meetings.
Okay, a frequent participant. Have you ever heard at the management team meetings any concerns raised about the Grand Cafe?
Yes, it comes up repeatedly. The lieutenant will make a regular report on, the police activity over the past month at every meeting. And it's often mentioned as part of his report, and there are often concerns raised by members of the community about what they see themselves exposed to, their kids exposed to, et cetera.
Okay. In your time participating in the management team, have the owners or managers of the Grand Cafe ever spoken at those meetings?
Not when I've been there.
Not when you've been there, and you're a pretty regular attendee.
Yes.
Okay, so you live in the neighborhood. Do you walk the neighborhood, bike? Are you mostly in a car? How do you move through the neighborhood?
All of the above. We try to walk around the neighborhood. Our kids have lots of friends in the neighborhood and want to walk to see their friends. We've had to really encourage them to avoid that intersection, however, because of the scene outside the bar.
So tell me what is happening that you're observing that is making you nervous for the safety of your children and asking them to reroute their route as a result.
Well, I can tell you, I was earlier in September. We were driving home from an event, and we start seeing ambulances and police cars coming by. And my 10-year-old says from the back seat, "Don't tell me it's another shooting at the Grand Cafe." So there's a constant sense that it is a dangerous place. There's people loitering outside. There's sex work happening. There's drug transactions happening right in front of us all the time, day and night. It's more intense at night, but it's really around the clock. And this is something that is just really scary to kids, scary to residents. A lot of them right next door to the cafe or across the street or right down the street on East Pearl. I've also heard it from the business owners across the street, as Frank mentioned. We have a business that is considering closing, leaving the area entirely, and it's really impacted the other businesses that are a lot of which serve liquor, but they're good community partners.
The regulations around this refer to establishments that have a liquor license as a reason to challenge it would be around lewd, disorderly behavior. Would you describe any of what you see as lewd or disorderly or violent?
Yes, well, we've, as has been documented in the police reports, we see there have been shootings. We've heard them, we've seen them, we see the police activity responding to them. We know of assaults, including sexual assaults, carjackings, open air drug transactions, just on a regular ongoing basis. Large numbers of, between 10 and 15 people on a Friday or Saturday night, just hanging out outside the cafe, selling drugs.
As a neighbor, as a mom, what's this like? What is it like to live with this so close
I would say
fear?
it's really kind of destabilized our civic ecosystem. As has been mentioned, you know, the Grand Cafe is within just a short distance of a daycare center. They have a bus drop off right there because they do before and after school. It's within a block of the largest elementary school in New Haven with 900 students, Fairhaven School. It's the senior housing complex that is right there with 140 affordable housing units, multiple churches, barbershops, all the things that have been mentioned. It really, all of that feels less secure. People complain about it. They're worried. Our own families can't, you know, walk in that area, don't feel safe in their own neighborhood. So these are all the things that, you know, none of us, you know, should tolerate in our communities. And so it's just unacceptable. The other thing I would say is just to add is, I mean, they're really, what I've heard, you know, increasingly since the shootings is a justifiable fear, I think, that stray bullets will hit nearby residences, businesses, pedestrians. I mean, people are worried about being shot.
You canvass the neighborhood as part of your alder race and maybe for other reasons as well. Are you somebody who knocks a lot of doors in Ward 14? Would you have heard from a lot of people?
Yes, yeah, it's something that comes up frequently in the neighborhood when you knock on doors and ask people what they're concerned about. They're concerned about drug use and sex work, and they're concerned specifically about the intensity of those activities in front of Grand Cafe.
Okay. I'd like to enter as item 16, exhibit 16, the letter from Ms. Gina Toppins.
Where is she still testifying?
Okay.
I think Gina's a resident who submitted a letter.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about it in 1 second.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, just give me one moment. Okay. Excuse me. All right, the letter is up. I'm just going to share the screen.
Okay. This is a letter that was submitted by Ms. Gina Toppins. Do you know Gina Toppins?
Yep.
Okay.
Gina lives on Atwater Street.
Okay, Atwater Street. Is Atwater Street close to the Grand Cafe neighborhood that we're talking about, the Fairhaven neighborhood?
Yes, it's on the other side of Grand Avenue.
If
Right,
I
but
may,
begins.
I'd like it noted for the record, Ms. Toppins is not here. Ms. Toppins is not the one being questioned, and Ms. Toppins' testimony as such is hearsay.
Ms. Toppins is here in the room and can be called up for this as well. I'm simply establishing whether Ms. Toppins.
Listed on the witness list.
That's clear. I understand that there's time for.
I have discussed this
I'm
issue
establishing
extensively with her.
whether
Yeah.
Ms. Toppins is a resident so that people will understand the context of the letter she's been here.
Her letter should not be admitted.
Why
Okay.
should a letter not be admitted? I submitted as an exhibit.
Excuse me, for the record, hearsay testimony is admissible. So, and, you know, for the record, you know, the agent for the remonstrance can enter any exhibit that's already been offered or submitted prior to the hearing. So I will allow it.
And Ms. Toppins, again, for the record, is present as a attendee, and she is raising her hand at the moment. So
She's not allowed. She was not listed as a witness. We all had to disclose our witnesses by 5 p.m. on the 2nd. You yourself sent me that letter. If she's allowed to testify, then I got a lot of witnesses that want to testify too.
Okay, we don't need her to testify. My understanding is the purpose is we're submitting into the record a letter that she has written. That is permissible.
Well, may I ask then why another witness is being allowed to comment on it? The testimony should just be submitted as her testimony, and the other witness does not need to comment.
I agree. You know, there is no, it does not have to be entered through a witness. So, you know, if any additional exhibits, Ms. Dubois Watson, you want to enter, you can enter. You don't have to question a witness about them.
Okay, thank you. All right, you can take that down.
okay. Has that been entered into the record?
Okay.
I would like it entered into the record though.
Okay, well, we'll get to that, but do you have any further questions for Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Okay,
Ms. Miller, we saw that there were petitions submitted along with this remonstrance that had hundreds of signatures. Are you somebody who signed that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Were you involved at all in talking to other neighbors about signing the petition?
Yes, our community, in response to concerns about the Grand Cafe, had a series of actions in the parking lot. And as part of those actions, we circulated the petition and talked with folks.
Thank you. And the petition laid out very clearly what concerns were. Can you tell us what else you heard while you were circulating the petition?
We heard concerns from the seniors who live in the River Run apartments next door, that they were feeling insecure leaving their homes during the day or at night. We heard from people not feeling comfortable walking in their neighborhood or even going to businesses. A lot of the issues that have been raised previously. I think there's also been just a general concern that what's happening there spills out into other parts of the neighborhood. That yes, things may happen in the parking lot, but they're emanating from the Grand Cafe.
Okay, thank you. And I believe I heard you say earlier you're now the alder-elect for this community.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that you had wanted to say that I haven't asked you?
I mean, just that, the dynamic created and supported by Grand Cafe really puts our children and ourselves at personal risk. It actively disrupts our quality of life, and it undermines our efforts to build community and advance our neighborhood's economic development. So, I mean, for all these reasons and on behalf of the neighborhood, I really implore you not to renew this license. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'm all set with this witness.
okay, thank you. Attorney Crow?
Thank you. Ms. Miller, you testified that you told your children to avoid this intersection because of the scene outside the bar, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you testified that you witnessed people loitering outside, and the people loitering outside have displayed lewd and disorderly behavior outside the bar, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that you've seen 10 to 15 people hanging outside the cafe selling drugs. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said your community's concern is for the intensity of these activities in front of the Grand Cafe. Is that correct?
Well, that's what's visible to us. Yes.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. I do. And Alderman Miller, thank you very much for being here. The activities that you say you have witnessed in the parking lot from the Grand Cafe, can you tell me, is there a parking lot across the street, across from the Grand Cafe, across East Pearl Street?
Yes, it's a parking authority lot. It's a public lot that's just available to the community that doesn't charge a fee.
Okay, and do you see the same activities you described that you saw in the Grand Cafe parking lot, in that parking lot?
Occasionally things will happen there, but not with the same frequency or intensity at all.
And are there other, we've heard that there are other alcohol serving restaurants in this area. Not
Yes.
being familiar with the area myself, are there any that are within sort of line of sight, close proximity to the Grand Cafe?
Yes, there are three almost immediately across the street on the other side of Grand Avenue. One is La Molienda, Salsas, and I believe Granda Pizza also serves beer.
Okay.
And
do you see the same type of troubling activity outside of those restaurants that you see in the Grand Cafe parking lot?
not at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto?
Alderman-elect, thanks for being here. You alluded to a couple shootings in the parking lot. I'm unaware of that. Could you clue us in of what you know about those incidents?
I don't have the dates in front of me. There's one in late August and one in early September.
Okay, do you know anything about them or what type of incidents they were? I kind of.
I'm sure they were
think-
documented
Sorry.
in the police reports, or the lieutenant can provide details of those. I mean, I just know that they occurred. One of them, I believe, was mentioned in one of the exhibits that was provided.
I know, I thought I saw one. That's why I was asking.
Yeah,
I thought I only
yeah,
saw one. I didn't know. Do you know?
I don't
what-
remember if that was the
Okay.
first or the second, but
Okay, maybe the demonstrative can, when she goes back, and clarify that a little bit. All right, thank you.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miller.
If I may, I have questions off that question.
Okay,
You're gonna have to help me, Mrs. Miller. You mentioned a restaurant named La Molienda, is that correct?
Yes.
Wasn't that establishment involved in a prostitution ring itself?
I don't have any knowledge of that. And if it is, there's not activity outside on the street that is disruptive of public life.
Nothing further.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Okay, Ms. Dubois, Walton?
Okay, there are many people in the audience that are available, but if we're not accepting other witnesses, then that completes our witness list.
Well, I just want to clarify something because there was an objection by Attorney Crow. And, you know, he indicated that he was unaware of the opportunity for people who were attending to participate. I just want to make it clear that an email was sent on October 28th of 2021 to Jose Rivera. This was before we received notice.
Okay,
Let me
let him
explain,
speak.
Attorney Crow. This was sent before we received notice from Attorney Crow that he was retained to represent the permittee. And in that email, I specifically advised that that the invitation to this webinar could be shared with anyone, that all persons viewing the hearing would be assigned attendee status. They will not be on camera and will be muted. Should any of those people wish to speak during the hearing or be called as witnesses, I will be able to grant them participant status during the duration of the testimony. They will be able to raise their hand virtually in case they wish to be called on to testify. So that was sent on the 20th of October, 10:25 a.m. That email was then forwarded to Attorney Crow at 11:28 after we received notice that he was retained to represent them. And then I responded to that email all again on the 28th. So I'm just making that point because there are in fact people who have raised their hands who are attending who would like to participate. Ms. Toppins had raised her hand at one point. She has not kept it raised, but she did raise it at one point.
That was not my objection. My objection was we were required to give witness lists of people that were going to testify. Whether people were allowed to participate or not was not what I talked about. Ms. Toppins has already testified. She's given her testimony via a letter.
Okay.
Okay, well, all right, let's just clarify.
I don't mind, just don't mischaracterize me on this. That was my objection.
Is this the time when I would call somebody from the public or not?
Okay, well, first I want to clarify, the letter from Gina Toppins.
Yes, I'd like to enter that.
Okay, so that will be marked as Exhibit 16.
Thank you.
Do you have any other documentation you want to submit at this time?
No.
Okay. All right. And are there other people who would wish to participate on behalf of the remonstrance?
Yes, I would like to call Mr. Henry Fernandez.
Okay. And I just want to note that he has raised his hand. He's an attendee. I'm going to promote him to a panelist, but I would, before we move forward with this testimony, we should confirm that he was either present at the beginning of the hearing and did swear to an oath, or that he, and if he did not, he should be sworn and put under oath.
I would like to understand why we have a witness list and we're required to submit one ahead of time if we're going to disregard it. I'd like an answer to that question.
well, you know, for the administrative, for this to run smoothly with the number of, you know, people who wish to testify and information submitted into the record, it does help run an orderly procedure if we, you know, if we have as much information ahead of time. But this is a public forum, and, you know, anyone can testify who wishes to. Okay, Mr. Hernandez, can you identify yourself for the record, and also were you sworn in at the beginning of this hearing?
I'm Henry Fernandez. I'm a resident of Fairhaven and live on East Pearl Street, about a block and a half from the Grand Cafe, and I was present and did raise my right hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fernandez. As you just indicated, you are a resident of East Pearl Street. How long have you lived on East Pearl Street?
I've lived here with my wife for 18 years.
18 years. Can you tell us, our commissioners may not know about East Pearl Street. Can you describe East Pearl Street for us?
Sure. It's a several block long street, and it's almost entirely residential, with the exception of at the intersection of Grand and East Pearl. There's a public parking lot on one side, and on the other side, there's a small plaza that includes the Grand Cafe.
Thank you. And I think we've well established that there are schools and daycare and community services nearby, a church. Is there anything we're missing that's potentially impacted by the nuisance behavior at the Grand Cafe?
Well, sure. There's quite a bit, actually. It's quite dense neighborhood. So there's also the New Haven Public Library branch, which is in the next block, and I think people have mentioned the Atwater Senior Center. There's actually two very large, meaning well over 100 units, senior housing developments within 2 blocks of the Grand Cafe. I think if we look at kind of whether the permitted premises will have a detrimental effect on covered uses, you probably couldn't find a location in the state with more concentrated covered uses. I think we only lack a military camp, barracks, or flying field, which I believe are covered uses that we don't have in our neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez, are you a parent?
I am. We have a wonderful 16-year-old son.
Thank you. Has this had the nuisance activity that's drawn to this, and the criminal activity that's drawn to this neighborhood, has that had any impact on the way you parent your son, on directions you give to him, any concerns for his safety?
Absolutely. In fact, he's quite uncomfortable being, especially in the evening, being at that intersection. Sometimes he'll ride the public bus, and when he does, he has really 2 options. One at that, just a little beyond that intersection, and then one at the intersection of East Pearl and Front Street or Ferry, where they kind of run into each other. And he always goes he would prefer not to wind up at the area near the Grand Cafe.
Is that making his walk longer?
Well, it certainly makes it longer, but I don't think that any member of the public should have to decide where they're going to catch a public bus based on the safety of the neighborhood.
Yeah, so he's sort of going out of his way.
Yeah, he's young though, so an extra block
okay.
doesn't hurt him, right? But he would definitely.
Okay. What have you observed that has you concerned and testifying and hanging in with us 2 hours into this hearing?
Sure. So I think there's a number of issues that are kind of prevalent in the area as a result. And I should say it's a wonderful neighborhood, and this is really a set of problems that we don't see. I don't think we'd otherwise see in this kind of significant level. So it does mean, though, that we often have people who are intoxicated and drive the wrong way out of the parking lot, and then wind up driving up. Well, they drive up the short piece of the street that's one way in the right direction, and they just keep going. And so they drive up our street in the wrong direction. That happens with some regularity because people just don't know what's going on. We also see a pretty high level of prostitution around the bar And there are police lights all the time. And it's quite, it's quite scary when people are getting shot. I mean, I do a lot of work with young people in the community, and the idea that people are getting shot outside or a block and a half from my house is a scary thing. So I really can't, I mean, I almost can't paint a picture of how bad things are, and that it's just time to come to an end. I think that's really the message I'd want to send here.
Thank you. It was mentioned that there was a community action that spent time in that parking lot throughout the past month. Did you attend that?
I did, yes.
Okay. With the gathering of community members that came out for that, did you notice any activity with your own eyes of coming in and out of the bar? Anything noteworthy while you spent time there?
Yeah, I think certainly there were people who were clearly intoxicated. There were people who were almost certainly on drugs. But I think one of the things that really struck me about being out there with my neighbors, kind of listening to music and kind of engaging in a sit-in, is that we really know that the permittee could have solved this if they had tried. And we can see that both with the other permitted establishments that are within the block that Sarah mentioned. But we can also see it because when neighbors sat outside the bar every evening for 3 weeks, the police reported that crime in and around the bar dropped precipitously. So it was possible to stop crime by engaging in basic practices that we would expect of a business owner selling alcohol. And I think that gap is why we have the problem. We don't have it in the other establishments that are nearby, and we didn't have it when the public stepped up.
Thank you. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you feel important to offer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that that hasn't been raised is, that there could be a perception that there are folks who are from, who are new to the neighborhood that are making these complaints, and that there are differences in particularly, let's say, in issues of race or ethnicity. And I want to be really clear, right? I mean, we've lived in this house since before the Grand Cafe was called the Grand Cafe, and I've lived in the city of New Haven for over 30 years. But also, when we look at the other, and obviously my wife and I are both people of color, African American and Latino, and but when we look at the other establishments on the street which are not having these problems, that are also have permits to sell alcohol, the majority of the clientele of those separate, better run permittees are people of color, and we're their customers. So this isn't about the changing nature of the neighborhood, and it's not about discrimination because of the race of the clientele. It is about a diverse set of neighbors that just became frustrated with ongoing violence spilling out into our neighborhood. So I'd want to make sure that commissioners heard that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. I have no further questions.
Okay, Attorney Crow.
I have nothing for Mr. Fernandez.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto.
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinney.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And Ms. Dubois Walton.
Okay, I have no further, I do see hands raised, but I have nobody else that I'm calling. I don't know if you.
Ms. Stiver, can we take a 5-minute break whenever you?
Yes, I was going to recommend that. It is now 3:32. We'll commence at, let's give it 5 minutes at 3:37, and then Attorney Crow will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crow, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Call Mr. Jose Rivera, please, who appears to my right. How you doing?
Scott, you're muted.
Apologies. Sorry about that. I muted when we were on the recess. Attorney Crowe, before we move forward, Hearing Officer Stiver, there are still members of the public who have raised their hand who wish to participate. And the department has no objections to these individuals testifying in the narrative.
Can we wait and have the public discussion after the testimony?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can we move forward and have the rest of the public discussion after the testimony?
Well, I think are they speaking on behalf of the remonstrants?
It's unclear, but I believe they are remonstrants. I mean, we can clarify with the first person that I would promote to panelist.
Okay, I think we should take care of that, and then we can move on to Attorney Crowe.
Okay. So the first person that I'm going to promote to panelists is Jessica Light. Okay, she is promoted. She just has to turn on her microphone and her camera.
Hello.
Okay, Ms. Light, can you identify yourself for the record, and were you present at the beginning of the hearing to be sworn in?
Yes, I'm Jessica Light. I'm a New Haven resident and I was present at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I am a New Haven teacher. I currently work at a school that does not have school buses, but prior I worked at Davis Street Magnet School. And I had multiple cases where parents came to me asking to have their school buses rerouted away from stops at the Grand Cafe, citing safety concerns. Obviously, that's nothing I could control, so I just sent them to call the district for those relocations, but there's no other cafe or restaurant or bar in the city that I have ever been told as a teacher was a danger for a school bus stop to be near. So when I saw the press about this and everything, I felt like it was important to try to share that point of view.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Commissioner
No.
Bolletto? Okay,
No.
thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'm just gonna change her. And just for the record, her name was spelled Jessica, Jessica, Light, Light. Okay, and so we still have 4 more people who have raised their hands. The next person who I'm gonna promote is a gentleman by the name of Carlos, Carlos, Gallo, Galo. And to be clear, these are the names that that they've inputted themselves into Zoom. If your last name is spelled differently or there's a typo that you heard when I spelled your name out, please let us know so we can correct it for the record. But the next person up is Mr. Gallo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I'd like to also mention to the neighbors that have been involved in the efforts last month.
I'm sorry, before you begin, can
Yeah.
you just identify yourself for the record? And also, were you sworn in at the beginning of the hearing?
I was at the beginning of the hearing. I believe that I was. I'm happy to raise my hand again if needed. My name is Carlos, last name Gallo, and I'm a resident of Fairhaven.
Okay, so you were or were not sworn in?
I heard the swearing, and I came in, a few minutes into the the discussion. So I can't attest to whether or not I performed that.
It does not sound like you were sworn in, so I will do that at this time.
Sure.
I would also ask any of the other people who are going to be testifying, if they weren't sworn in the beginning, if they could please also raise their right hand at this time.
There should be 3 additional people raising their hand right now.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to note before we move forward, Mr. Gallo, that another person did raise their hand during that oath, so we'll get to that person in due course.
Sure. Thank you for the time. I'll try to be brief as best as I can, but this is an important issue. Obviously, many of my neighbors are here. Thank you to Karen, Sarah, and Kika for leading the effort. I could tell you that I wasn't personally involved during those nights that they did the sort of community getting together. A lot of that has to do with the fact that this actually takes up a lot of our time. You know, I've like all of us, I'm simply a neighbor here speaking. It's already taken up 4 hours of my time. And plus, I think a lot of our neighbors have already spent weeks, if not months, advocating here. So I think that that should be recognized. The reason I'm speaking, aside from being a 25-year community member, grew up in Fairhaven, specifically for about 6 years between the time of 2009 and 2015, I worked a couple blocks away from the Grand Cafe at a social services organization focused on early childhood development. So I come at this from an angle, from an early childhood development angle. Specifically, there's one point I'd like to make. I'd love to be considered in the record how close the Grand Cafe actually is to a functioning daycare. I know that that's been mentioned many times, but I would hope that the commission or the people in charge of deciding here would actually physically look at how adjacent it is to an actively functioning early childhood center. That means there are children between the ages of perhaps 6 months or 3 months old up until maybe 6 or 7 years old that rely on before and after school care to be conducted from the area directly behind the parking lot here of the Grand Cafe. I think that's really important because we know that for early childhood development to actually happen, kids should be outside. A lot of the recommendations are that kids should be part of their neighborhoods, should be allowed to safely walk in their neighborhoods, should have teachers and caregivers that walk them down the street. And I would suspect, after having worked there for a long time, knowing our providers that work there, I would suspect that a lot of them would not feel very comfortable going into that parking lot with children of a young age. I would also note some of the time stamps on those police reports that were made earlier were during the day. And you might say, well, it was on a weekend, but I know parents that work on weekend that rely on actually childcare to be provided on weekends. Additionally, Mr. Crow had mentioned earlier about, and I'm not trained in the law. I know that a lot of people here are, so forgive me if I'm being clumsy about this, but I also wanted to make my final point around Officer Fumiotti. I think I would have loved to have asked Officer Fumiotti, if given the chance, why he wasn't at every single one of these reports. And I can tell you, after interacting with him, I've known him since 2013. I have no vinculations with him whatsoever, other than him being a member of the New Haven Police Force. But I know that the resources in Fairhaven for police forces are already so stretched that I actually would be really concerned if Officer Fumiotti were on all of those records. I could tell you, because I've interacted with him since 2013, that in fact, he has been one of the most consistent voices from the police department in our neighborhood. So therefore, he would have one of the best pictures to be able to speak to this issue. Fairhaven is not a big community. It's a very small community. To assume that because he wasn't at a location, that he wouldn't know about it, I think is a big stretch. And again, I come at this, I'm a member of a board of, a nonprofit board for early childhood development here locally. And I'm really concerned about the impact this is having on young children.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
Nothing for him.
Okay. Commissioner Boletto?
No, that's fine.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney?
No questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gallo.
Okay, so I'm promoting Mr. Gallo to an attendee. The next person up is Elizabeth Flournoy. I'm going to note for the record that we have another person who has just raised their hand to participate. So that person hasn't been put under oath yet, as far as we know. We'll have to confirm that before he testifies.
And I would ask that we have to cut this off at some point because of the time, and we need to get to the other side. I would think that we should either hold public comment till afterwards, or if, hold it where people are raising their hand. I don't think we can continue to wait. People keep lifting their hand up.
Well, they do have the
Thank you, Val.
opportunity to testify. So I mean, I think if we're just trying to keep things in a logical manner, we would let them testify and then turn it
Right,
over.
but we keep adding people to the listing, and
We could continue the hearing to another day if time is pressing.
I was going to mention that I have to attend a wake in West Haven between 6 and 7 o'clock. So we're going to if we're going to keep letting people in, and I'm not going to get an opportunity to speak on behalf of my client, we're going to have to come to another date.
Okay, well, we want to give you obviously an opportunity to present, all your testimony and all your witnesses. But again, this is a public forum. It sounds like there's a handful of additional people. I think we need to let people who wish to testify speak and get a full, opportunity for everyone who wants to participate.
Well, with that understanding, I'll wait and see when everybody's done. And if it continues to stack up like it's going to, we're going to need another date.
I understand and I anticipate that, obviously. So,
okay.
I have that commitment and I will not break it.
no, and of course, we certainly don't want you to. We were scheduled to go until 4 o'clock today. It definitely looks like we'll have to add additional time on another day.
It looks like more people are queuing up as well.
Just so you understand, this is how remonstrances work. We're not doing anything different here. We give everybody the opportunity who wishes to speak, the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I'll promote the next person to panelist. Her name is Elizabeth Flournoy. Elizabeth Elizabeth Flournoy, Flournoy. So she is a panelist now. She just needs to turn on her microphone and her camera.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know what's wrong with my camera, but in any case, I live right across the street. We moved in here. My name is Elizabeth Flournoy. Yes, I did swear in.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you spell your last name again?
Flournoy.
Okay, thank you.
We moved in here 11 years ago, and almost immediately, I think we were sorry when the first warm weekend came up. The noise and the nonsense that goes on across the street has always been bad, but it's escalated in the past few years, along with the violence. We've had our house broken into several times, one of which my husband chased the intruder up our driveway, and he ran directly back to Grand Cafe parking lot, where he hid himself among other people milling around, all wearing the same kind of clothes. We've called the police many times on attempted break-ins, theft from our yard, people trespassing in our yard, the garbage that has been thrown into our yard, people running through our yard, defecating in our yard, prostitution going on in cars directly in front of our house, as well as drug deals. And that's not just at night. And it goes on all the time, all the time. Our quality of life is lowered dramatically because of what's going on across the street. So I don't have anything to add to the other complaints because they've all been documented already. But the noise has definitely created huge stress for us in addition to the violence. It's all just nasty, and I'm glad the community is finally getting together to do something about it, and I hope we can continue to work towards that. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioners McKinney or Beletto?
No, thank you.
No, Ann.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next person who will be called up is Ellen Cupo, Ellen E-L-L-E-N, Cupo, C-U-P-O. And then I just note for the record in parentheses, she does use the pronouns she and her.
Thank you. My name is Ellen Cupo. I live at 20 Brown Street in New Haven. I also am the alder for Ward 8, which is adjacent to the Fairhaven neighborhood. And some of my ward is included in Fairhaven. And I am here in support of the neighbors, community activists, and folks before me who have spoken about the violence and issues at Grand Cafe. I'm here in support as a member of the community, a longtime resident. I grew up in Fairhaven on Downing Street. I was born on Fillmore Street. And so the safety of this neighborhood is incredibly important to me. I want to echo what was said by Mr. Gallo before me. The importance of the safety of this neighborhood, not just for children, but for all adult, for everyone, adults and the elderly alike. And it's in my position as a member of the Board of Alders of New Haven to speak out against this injustice and to ensure that the community is safe. And just to confirm that I raised my hand and swore when Mr. Gallo was sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Crowe, any questions?
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioners Beletto or McKinney, any questions?
No, Ann.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. For an attendee. All right, so the next person that we have up is Abigail Storch, A-B-I-G-A-I-L, Storch, S-T-O-R-C-H. She'll be promoted to panelist now.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Abigail Storch. I am a resident of Fairhaven. I live on 64 Perkins Street. I swore in the oath when it was administered to Carlos. May I continue?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. I have lived in multiple neighborhoods in New Haven. I've lived in New Haven for 5 years. I have never seen a place where this kind of activity, in any of the places I've lived in New Haven, where this kind of activity is as severe as it is at Grand Cafe. I walk my dog by Grand Cafe every single day, and every single day, without fail, there are people standing outside the cafe. Many days I watch drug deals take place as I pass by with my dog. There are a lot of kids and a lot of families that live on my street. Perkins Street is just across the way from Grand Cafe, and my real concern is with this sort of license that's being given and what kids are observing and the kinds of things that they're seeing as they grow up. I know a lot of parents are concerned about it. I also garden right across from Grand Cafe at Grand Acres Community Garden. I've spoken with a lot of people who only speak Spanish. They are concerned about it, but they didn't attend this hearing, obviously, because it was conducted in English. So I want to also make sure that their voices are heard. That's a lot of the sole Spanish speakers in Fairhaven are really concerned about this. And that I just want to echo what Sarah Miller said. I implore you to take this very seriously, to recognize that children are watching this go on. This is what they're observing on a daily basis, right where they live. And it's truly, truly unacceptable.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crowe, any questions?
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioners Spoleto or McKinney?
No.
I have just one quick question. You indicated that you walk by there almost daily or daily,
yep.
And you often see, I forget whether it says daily or not, even drug transactions happening outside of the Grand Cafe.
Yep.
Do you see that activity in anywhere else in this neighborhood?
Not on my daily walking route. I know it takes place elsewhere in the neighborhood, but I walk a loop that goes Downing, East Pearl, Front Street, Perkins. Nowhere else on my loop does this kind of thing take place. It is the only place where I genuinely become extra alert when I walk by, just because I know the kind of violence and the kind of activity taking place there. And I know that it's a dangerous corner.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, give me one moment. Just changing her role to an attendee, thank you. Okay, so Hearing Officer Steiber, there are now 4 individuals who were not raising their hands when you swore in the previous witnesses. So these folks are Alder Jose Crespo, Ward 16, Lee Cruz, Martin Torres Quintero, and Carmen Mendez. So if they could raise their hands, and could you put them under oath?
Have they done so?
Well, they're not on camera now, so.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury? Okay.
Let's see. Let me allow them to talk for the moment.
I do.
Okay. If everyone could unmute and just confirm.
Lee Cruz here.
Okay.
Listen, my client has 2 appointments.
All right, could Alder Jose Crespo, Lee Cruz, Martin Torres Quintero, and Carmen Mendez confirm that they're going to provide testimony under oath?
Yes, I do, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Do I do Monday?
Okay, so I'm going to promote Alder Jose Crespo, Ward 16, to panelists now.
You're on mute. You're on mute, sir.
Unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity. And I would like to thank those who are advocating with regards to this particular grave concern. My name is Jose Crespo, and I am an alder for the city of New Haven, Ward 16 in Fairhaven. And my address where I conduct business as an alder is 165 Church Street, 2nd floor, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510. I'm here representing my constituents on the other side of the neighborhood of Fairhaven. One of the things that I do for the community is I serve as a public safety committee member. I'm also a member of the Black and Hispanic Caucus. I'm the parliamentarian. I also serve in the tax abatement committee. And I am also a member of the Board of Alders, where we try to listen to every concern this community has. As an alder of the 16th Ward, I am in support with my community, with the activists, with my colleagues, Alder Ellen Cupo, as well as the newly elected Alder-elect Sarah Miller within the Fairhaven community, the state delegation to not renew the liquor permit or any permit of that matter to conduct business in the premises known as Grand Cafe. There has been numerous complaints that have risen throughout the years as a result of the Grand Cafe, which is at 124 East Pearl Street, New Haven, Connecticut. And as an elected official during the last 6 years, there has always been a nuisance rising up pertaining to this business. I have taken the time to also join my folks to listen to their concerns, and the constituents in Fairhaven are honestly saying there's lewd behavior, there's loitering, there's violent acts, and this is a grave concern due to the effects it's having within our neighborhood. I have witnessed these activities myself. There are at least 2 other businesses that operate on a daily basis, and they sell alcohol, but they have not had any complaints made since I've been a resident within Fairhaven, and I've been in this neighborhood for 27 years. This business creates a dangerous environment to all who reside here, and inclusive, there's a church and a child daycare directly behind them. And also about 275 feet away, there's a middle school for Haven. We have other neighboring businesses that includes barbershops, pharmacies, grocery stores, not-for-profit organizations, elderly homes, and other entities, and none have had the amount of complaints as Grand Cafe. Even if each business within the Grand Avenue were to be added up, it does not equate to what Grand Cafe has caused in Fairhaven. Per our state delegation, and I quote, excessive noise late at night, breach of peace outside the bar facility, drug dealings that occur in parking lots inside as well as the violence acts, including several recent shootings, end quote. I served with State Representative Al Polillo when he was an alder for the 17th Ward, and under his leadership as the former majority leader, I have learned that every business, every owner, every landlord, or any operator has the duty and obligation to every neighbor and every customer that they serve. Clearly, this organization or this entity has not taken that time nor done their due diligence. They're not a team player, and I urge the support to deny the liquor permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
No.
Commissioners Boletto or McKinney?
No, Ann.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And again, for the
Another
record,
person has joined the queue.
yep, there are 2 more people that raised their hands. I guess I'll defer to you, Hearing Officer Steiber, whether you want to try to put them under oath now or put them under oath after.
I'm sorry, they have not been put under oath.
Okay,
Okay.
just 2 more people have raised their hands during Mr. Crespo's testimony.
All right, we'll swear them in at this point. If those 2 individuals could please raise their right hand.
Okay, and you should be David Hunter and Kevin Alvarez.
Okay, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
This is David Hunter. I do. And I was here for the first swearing in when you began at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And this is Kevin Alvarez. I also do and was not here for the swearing in, but my right hand is raised.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next person who would be up, just for the record, Mr. Crespo spelled his name K-O-S-E and then capital C-R-E-S-P-O. And then the next person that we have up is Lee Cruz, and that's spelled L-E-E-C-R-U-Z. He has been promoted to panelist. Mr. Cruz, if you could just turn on your camera.
Yep. My name is Lee Cruz. I reside at 29 Clinton Avenue in Fairhaven. I've been a resident for 20 plus years. I am also the co-chair of the Fairhaven Community Management Team, and the information that I can offer that adds to what has been said before is that I've been attending management team meetings for over 5 years. I've co-chaired for the last year. I've never knowingly seen anyone from the Grand Cafe at the meeting, meaning that people don't have to identify themselves. But whenever someone new comes to our meeting, we do invite them to identify themselves with name and address if they wish, as well as being members of a particular business. So to my knowledge, the Grand Cafe has never been there, much less asked to speak. And then in addition to that, living right around the corner and then a straight shot to see the Grand Cafe, I do have, and I've done that living here at this address 13 years. I remember when the daycare center that's being mentioned on Grand Avenue behind Grand Cafe used to have baby carriages that they would push down the street, these large ones with 3, 4, 5, I think up to 6 kids in them. And I know that since there's been an increase in the violence, that has ceased. And I know this because I walk all the time, pretty regular schedule. I have 2 kids, 7 and 10. And I know that used to happen, the carriages, and that is no longer happening. I cannot tell whether that's directly related to any perception of increased violence, but it sure does seem that way. So I won't take any more take up any more time because I just wanted to offer that additional information. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Cruz, do you have any, excuse me, Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioners Spoleto or McKinney?
No, thank
No,
you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Changing him back to an attendee. Okay, the next person that we have up is Martin Torres Quintero. Martin spelled capital M-A-R-T-I-N, last name Torres Quintero, capital T-O-R-R-E-S-Q-U-I-N-T-E-R-O. I will be promoting you to panelist.
Okay, Ken. Okay. Greetings, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I've been a resident on East Pearl Street and Front Street since 1996. I'm an active cyclist and I'd like to commute by bicycle. And one of the issues that I have seen that had changed, besides all the problems previously discussed, the drinking in the parking lot and the legal use of drugs had become a hazard for cyclists like myself. So to the point that I no longer feel safe driving or riding my bicycle around there. And it has forced me to go and take a less safer route because I have to go into a much busier street. That's another problem. I also work for the Parks Department, and we've seen a lot of issues associated with the kind of like after hours parties that continue and cause a lot of problems in the park, which is a short distance away. For the record, I raised my hand and I've been since 1 o'clock in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Crowe, do you have any questions?
Just because I'm curious, are you actually driving while you're on the phone?
I'm actually putting my, I'm parked right now and I'm on hands-on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Commissioners McKinney or Boletto?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to change him to an attendee. And the next individual that we have is Carmen Mendez. So I'm going to promote her. And her name is spelled C-A-R-M-E-N and then Mendez, capital M-E-N-D-E-Z. Okay, Ms. Mendez, you are, your microphone's on. Okay, there you are.
There you are. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carmen Mendez. I reside on Atwater Street and on the corner of Pine, which is the intersecting street. I've been living in Fairhaven for 27 years. And I've been here since before 1 o'clock, and I did swear in. And I also, truth and disclosure, work for the City of New Haven, the Livable City Initiative's office. I will tell you, most people have talked about the children and the effects on the school and the effects all around the environment of Grand Cafe rather. But I'll tell you, on the personal side, how it's changed my life. There was a wonderful little restaurant called Salsa's that's across the street on Grand Avenue. I do not go there at night for dinner. I will not go there at night for dinner because of the crowd that you find in front of Grand Cafe. And the yelling and the screaming and the cursing that goes on is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Cars coming in and out of the parking lot, cars from out of state coming in and out of the parking lot constantly. I do not go to Grand Up Eats anymore at night. I will order on a Saturday afternoon, and that's about all I'll do there because of the crowd that hangs out on that little plaza on East Pearl and Grand. I will also tell you that I drive around because I'm the neighborhood specialist for Fairhaven. I drive around Fairhaven all day, several times a week. And that location is always busy, cars coming in and out. If I wanted to, don't even go to the Chinese restaurant that's there on that corner because it's impossible. The traffic, the human trafficking that goes back and forth, and also the car, you can't, it's impossible. I don't even like to park across the street in the free public lot because, again, of the crowd. And it is not a pleasant place. Fairhaven has changed tremendously. I've been there for 20 years. I will also tell you that I do not walk down my block after sunset because some of the crowd lingers on and comes on to Atwater Street, and you don't know who you're going to meet or what you're going to run into. So I don't bother. I've even changed the pattern of how I drive home at night, and I always hold my heart in my hand because I don't want to drive by there. So I find a whole different route to get to my house in order to avoid that situation. I figure if my life has changed that way, there have to be other people whose lives have changed in the same manner because of this establishment. I beg you to not renew their liquor license at all. They have been nothing but a problem to the neighborhood since the jump. And they have really hampered the delight that at one point I certainly had about living in Fairhaven and living in Atwater Street in particular. The other thing that I want to make a comment of, and this will be the last comment I'll make, is that even though Lieutenant Fumiotti was not at many of those incidences, I will tell you that we have top-notch cops in Fairhaven. And him not being present there should not be seen as an avenue to say that they don't matter, or because these cops that have been at those instances are very well trained. They know what they're doing. I trust them as much as I trust Lieutenant Fumiotti. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney or Boletto?
Nothing. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. We have two more. David Hunter will be promoted first.
Greetings. Thank you for allowing me to provide testimony. I did come on at 1 and I had to leave at around 3 o'clock, but I have come back. My name is David Hunter. I am the president and CEO of Mary Wade Home, which is a nonprofit senior living community located on Clinton Avenue, approximately 0.3 miles from this establishment. I am also a member of the Fairhaven management team. I'm a member of the Strong School Steering Committee, and I'm the president of the Fairhaven Union Cemetery on Grand Avenue, and also very involved with our police department, who we have tremendous respect for. And I meet once every 2 weeks with Lieutenant Fumiotti to educate myself about some of the issues that you're hearing about today. Mary Wade is the largest employer here in Fairhaven, and this establishment is within walking distance from our campus on Clinton Avenue. In fact, some of our senior residents walk to Grand Avenue for various shopping experiences. The activities surrounding this bar and connected parking lot is detrimental and could be dangerous and is a great concern to us. I firmly believe that businesses have the right to do business and to make a profit. Absolutely, I feel that way. However, we're in a different time, and as a result of the reduction in the police department and the times of this day with respect to drug and alcohol addiction, businesses are required to become part of the community and support a wholesome and safe community for the good of the populace. Attorney Crow earlier asked Representative Paolello if he ever went into the bar to speak to the owner. However, the owner has not ever reached out to its neighbors, nor the community meetings, nor have they demonstrated any effort to address the issues as stated in the multiple testimonies. This establishment has not demonstrated efforts to do this and have instead been in conflict with its neighbors rather than working toward being a part of the solution. I ask you, please do not renew the liquor license for the Grand Cafe establishment. Thank you for allowing me to make these comments and for all the time that you're putting into this project here today.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Crow, do you have any questions?
Mr. Hunter, you're the president and CEO of Mary Wade Home, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's been 2 shootings outside your establishment too, haven't there?
No, sir.
Yeah. Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners Spoleto or McKinney?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. You're on. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunter. Let me change your role to attendee. Okay, last person who's had their hand raised is Kevin Alvarez. And just for the record, David Hunter is spelled D-A-V-I-D, Hunter H-U-N-T-E-R. Kevin Alvarez is K-E-V-I-N, Alvarez, capital A-L-V-A-R-E-Z. And he is now promoted to panelist.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the commission, to Dr. Du Bois-Walton, and everyone for being here. My name is Kevin Alvarez. I reside at 98 Clinton Avenue in Fairhaven, and I'm actually here to speak on behalf of Mayor Justin Elicker. I am his Director of Legislative Affairs and spoke with him prior to this because on his behalf, I would like to ask the commission to not renew this liquor license in line with everything by the New Haven Police Department, by District Manager Fumiotti, but also all of the comments from residents and community members that have been here today, that it is of significant importance to the city of New Haven and the well-being of our residents that this liquor permit not be renewed. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Attorney Crow, do you have any questions?
No time to waste.
Okay, Commissioners Spoleto or McKinney?
No, not this time.
No, thank you.
Okay. Attorney Medeo, does that conclude all the participants who wish to testify? You're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, it does. No one else has their hand raised or has raised their hand during any of the testimonies since the last time we sworn witnesses.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank everyone for their patience and for their testimony. Attorney Crow, it is now 4:24 p.m. I realize you have an engagement you need to attend, and obviously we want to give you a thorough opportunity to present all witnesses and submit whatever evidence you may have. So we will have to continue this hearing.
Very well.
I'm going to ask Attorney Medeo if you could coordinate a time that's agreeable for Attorney Crow and Ms. Dubois Walton, as well as the commissioners, so that we can conclude this, as soon as possible. But again, it's incumbent upon us to do a thorough examination of this matter and to provide everyone who wishes to speak the opportunity to do so. So we will continue this hearing at a later date. For the record, I'm going to close the hearing at this point for today at 4:25 p.m. Just want to make sure Attorney Crow or Ms. Dubois Walton don't have any questions before we retire for today.
No questions.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you again all for your time, and we will reconvene at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you.